Wins is the wrong word. Let it be replaced before the piece begins in earnest, because the framing of relating to an avoidant as something to be won, a competition with a victor and a defeated, a strategic engagement with an optimal outcome to be achieved through the correct application of the right tactics, is the framing that produces the most consistent and most predictable failure in the people who adopt it. The avoidant is not a game. The connection is not a contest, and the person who approaches it as though it is has already, through the adoption of that framing, made themselves into someone who is playing rather than being. And the avoidant, whose perception of the genuine versus the performed is one of their most involuntary and most accurate capacities, feels the playing, always. So, wins is wrong. What the calmest person actually does is not win the avoidant. They reach them. In the specific, rare, psychologically significant sense of making contact with the place in the avoidant, where the genuine response lives, rather than the managed one. The place where the fear does not fully govern. The place that is reachable, barely, with the right conditions, through the right quality of presence, but that the majority of people who try to love an avoidant never find because they are looking for it in the wrong direction and using tools that cannot reach it. Calm is the tool that reaches it. Not performed calm, not the strategic stillness of someone who has read enough about avoidant psychology to know that emotional reactivity triggers the retreat, and who is therefore suppressing their natural responses in service of presenting a surface that the avoidant will find less threatening. The avoidant feels the suppression beneath the stillness. They feel the effort of the not reacting as clearly as they would feel the reacting itself, perhaps more clearly, because the effort has a specific texture that genuine calm does not possess. The performed calm is a message that says, I am managing myself for you, and being managed for produces in the avoidant a specific, uncomfortable awareness that they are being handled, that the other person's internal state is being regulated in response to the avoidant's anticipated reactions, that the calm is contingent on their behavior rather than constitutive of the other person's character. Contingent calm is not calm. It is anxiety wearing calm's clothing, and anxiety, regardless of the clothing, is what the avoidance system most reliably retreats from. Genuine calm is different in kind. It does not arise from management. It arises from the specific, internal, self-generated stability of someone who has a settled relationship with their own emotional world, who can feel things fully without being destabilized by the feeling, who can be present with difficulty without the difficulty reorganizing their interior, who can sit inside uncertainty without the uncertainty generating the reactive urgency that the avoidance inconsistency so reliably provokes in the people who love them. The avoidance nervous system has been on alert, at varying levels of intensity, for most of their relational life. The alert is not dramatic. It does not present as visible anxiety or obvious hypervigilance. It is more subtle than that. A continuous, low-level monitoring of the emotional weather of the people around them. An automatic assessment operating beneath conscious awareness of the degree of pressure that any given interaction carries. The pressure being monitored is not hostility or conflict. The avoidant can navigate those with reasonable equanimity. The pressure being monitored is intimacy pressure, the emotional weight of another person's investment, need, hope, and orientation toward the avoidant as the source of something they require. This monitoring is exhausting in a way the avoidant may never have fully named. It has been running so long and so automatically that it has ceased to be experienced as a separate function. It is simply the texture of being in relationship with other people. The constant, ambient assessment of how much is being asked, how much is being offered, how close the intimacy is getting to the threshold at which the retreat becomes necessary. Genuine calm does something to this monitoring that nothing else achieves. It gives it nothing to report. The calm person does not generate the intimacy pressure readings that the avoidance system is continuously scanning for, not because they are not invested. Genuinely calm people can be deeply invested, but because their investment does not arrive as weight, does not carry the implicit demand for reciprocation that anxious investment carries, does not generate the felt obligation that the avoidance system experiences as the precondition for the retreat. The monitoring finds nothing threatening, and in the absence of the threat, in the specific, unfamiliar spaciousness of an interaction that is not generating the pressure readings that interactions typically generate, something in the avoidance system does what it almost never does. It rests. The resting is where everything begins, because the avoidance capacity for genuine connection, the access to the interior place where the real feelings live and where the real engagement happens, is not available in the state of alert. The alert forecloses it. When the monitoring is running at any significant level, the avoidance available resources are allocated to the management of the pressure, rather than to the experience of the connection. The connection is happening, technically, but the avoidant is only partially in it. The rest of them is in the management, assessing, regulating, maintaining the precise degree of engagement that allows the connection to continue without crossing the threshold that would activate the full retreat. In the resting, the management is suspended, not abandoned. The avoidance system does not simply switch off its protective functions in the presence of calm, but reduced, sufficiently reduced that the resources previously allocated to management become available for something else, for genuine attention, for real curiosity, for the specific, unguarded quality of presence that the avoidant is capable of, but that requires the absence of the pressure monitoring to produce. This is when you see the avoidant that the avoidant is when they are not afraid, the warmth that is not strategic, the openness that is not performed, the genuine, undefended engagement of someone who is, for the duration of whatever the calm has made possible, actually there, not managing, not assessing, not maintaining the distance that safety usually requires, just present in the full and specific way that the avoidance presence, when it is real, is unlike anything else. The calm person gets this reliably across multiple interactions in a way that the anxious or reactive person never does. Not because the calm person is doing something to produce it, because they are being something that makes it possible. There is a specific quality of the calm person's engagement with the avoidance withdrawal that deserves examination, because it is the place where the difference between genuine calm and performed calm is most clearly revealed. The withdrawal will happen, not as a judgment on the calm person, not as evidence that the calm was insufficient or the connection was less significant than it seemed. The avoidance withdrawal is systemic rather than relational. It is the retreat that happens when the closeness has reached the threshold, regardless of the quality of the closeness or the quality of the person it is being retreated from. The anxious person receives the withdrawal as information about themselves, as a signal to recalibrate, to assess what caused the withdrawal, what might have been done differently, what adjustment to the self-presentation or the level of investment or the degree of emotional expression might prevent the next withdrawal. The anxious person enters the withdrawal as a problem to be solved, and the solving produces exactly the intimacy pressure that the avoidant was retreating from, more of the oriented toward them, more of the concerned about their response, more of the specifically avoidant targeted attention that the monitoring system experiences as the pressure the retreat was generated to relieve. The calm person receives the withdrawal differently, not without feeling. Genuine calm does not require the absence of feeling, but without the reorganization of their interior around the withdrawal. The withdrawal is noticed, its impact is real, and then, and this is the thing that the avoidance system notices with a specificity that produces genuine response, life continues. The calm person does not shrink into the withdrawal's gravity. They do not expand into pursuit. They remain with the specific and entirely authentic steadiness of someone whose well-being is not contingent on the avoidance temperature, exactly as they were, present in their own life, warm when the warmth is reciprocated, undisturbed in any fundamental way by the disturbance. The avoidance system receives this as something it has almost never encountered in the aftermath of a withdrawal. Not the hurt that validates the retreat, not the pursuit that justifies the continued distance. just equanimity, the other person, living, whole, unchanged by the avoidance withdrawal in the way that only someone who was never destabilized by the avoidance engagement could be unchanged by its interruption. This equanimity is, to the avoidance psychology, one of the most destabilizing things available because it removes the dynamic, the push-pull that the avoidance withdrawal is designed to establish, the retreat that creates distance, the distance that creates longing in the other person, the longing that restores the familiar imbalance in which the avoidant is the less invested party and therefore the safer one. This dynamic cannot function against genuine equanimity. The longing is not produced, the imbalance is not restored. The calm person simply continues, undisturbed and whole, and the avoidant finds themselves in the unprecedented position of being the one who is more disturbed by the distance than the person it was created to affect. The irony at the center of this is worth sitting with. The calm that reaches the avoidant is not calm about the avoidant. It is not the specific, studied stillness of someone who has disciplined themselves into indifference to the avoidance behavior. It is the calm of someone who is fully, genuinely invested in the connection and in the person, and who is simultaneously, without contradiction, fully invested in themselves, in their own life, their own wholeness, their own continued becoming. The investment in the connection does not consume the investment in the self. The two coexist without competition because the calm person has, through whatever combination of previous work and natural temperament and hard-won self-knowledge, arrived at the internal spaciousness that allows genuine caring for another to coexist with genuine caring for oneself. This coexistence is what the avoidant has never been able to produce in themselves. The avoidant's own caring for the people they love, for the connections they value, for the genuine investment they bring to the relationships that matter to them, has always come at the cost of the self. Not because they are selfless, because they are defended. The defenses that protect the self from the cost of genuine intimacy also prevent the genuine caring from being fully expressed. The caring and the self-protection are at war, and the self-protection usually wins. The calm person demonstrates, through the simple daily evidence of their existence, that the war is not inevitable, that caring and self-possession can coexist, that genuine love does not require the defensive architecture that the avoidant has always believed it required. And in demonstrating this, not through argument, not through encouragement, not through the well-intentioned suggestion that the avoidant try to be more open, but through the lived, visible, entirely genuine example of their own integrated way of being, the calm person offers the avoidant something that no amount of patience or strategy or perfect handling of the avoidant's behavior could offer. A different model of what being in connection can feel like. The calm person does not win the avoidant. They do not defeat the fear or dismantle the walls or produce a transformation in the avoidant through the superior application of psychological understanding. They simply are, consistently and genuinely, the specific quality of presence that the avoidance nervous system has been searching for, without knowing it was searching, without having the language for what it was searching for, across the entire history of their defended, exhausting, yearning beneath the performance relational life. They are the proof that safe does not mean distant, that present does not mean consuming, that being fully in connection does not require the surrender of the self that the avoidant has always been most afraid to make. The calm person does not win the avoidant. They simply make the avoidant wonder, perhaps for the first time, with any real force, what they have been so carefully, so exhaustingly, so unnecessarily protecting themselves from.